station, Adventist Reflections. Now, to discuss character building ideas, here is your host, Dr. Danzie.
Hi family, welcome back to the Adventist Reflections podcast. Today we are going through another chapter of the book of Daniel, and this time around we're going to dissect Daniel chapter 10. And for that we have Zeny again, and Zeny, how are you going today?
Very good, Dan. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. I'm excited that we're going to be speaking about this.
Good to hear.
I think things have progressed from the last time that we recorded with this crisis. Pandemic crisis now of the coronavirus. Our churches are shut down here in Australia. I know that some places in the US and the Philippines and Mongolia have also closed down for a while. So here we are. It is what it is, and we're trying to use measurements.
It's all around, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all around the place.
Yeah. I think this will be a good opportunity to even share with the people who listen to this around the world to make sure that they keep connected through technology, to keep connected with church folks. So what do you think about this?
Life has changed, hasn't it? This is once in a lifetime.
It is.
Once in 100 years. Never in my lifetime have I experienced anything like this. And it is changing drastically the way we do our lives. So much has changed, my
Absolutely.
friend.
Even though we have this adversity, we can utilize this opportunity as an avenue to be able to go back a little bit like in the early church, except with a lot more technology, and that facilitates that connection. Excellent. And look, maybe, I don't know what you think, Zeny. I'm probably being a bit obnoxious by saying this or asking this, but I will be happy to put the link to your live stream into the episode. So if you who listen to this by a podcast, go to the description, we can put a link so that they can go back to the website where you're going to broadcast this live.
Yes.
And then my link from whatever
yes,
in the world.
Definitely.
Excellent. Definitely. Well, Zeny, Daniel, again.
Yes.
And now is chapter 10. We talked last time about, you share with us about the meaning of the prophecy that was given to Daniel, that vision, the prayer that Daniel had, the 2,300 days, the 70 weeks really, that's what we talked last time, and what that meant for all of us. And now we are back to this book, and now we have chapter 10, and it sounds to me that this is the start of the great final vision that Daniel will have about something that is to come. So would you like to share with us what's happening here? Where are we at the moment in this book?
You're right. From chapter 10 to chapter 12, we could basically say that this is one literary unit.
Okay.
And so basically what happens from now on is talking about simply one vision.
Yes.
So it's basically now starting with chapter 12, chapter 10. Mm-hmm. So we are in the third year of Cyrus, who is the king of Persia. Yeah. So we are in the year 536, 535.
Right.
So this is taking place straight out 2 years after Daniel 9. And remember, Daniel 9, we meet Daniel in chapter 9, praying to God after he discovered from the prophet Jeremiah that basically 2 years are left before the fulfillment of 70-year prophecy.
Right.
That people will be in captivity in Babylon for 70 years. Mm-hmm. So this is happening 2 years after this. In other words, at the time when this prophecy of Jeremiah is being fulfilled and people were to come back from Babylon back to Jerusalem. So it is a huge year,
Mm.
big year that we are talking about.
Yeah.
And look what the text says. It says a revelation was given to Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Its message was true, and it concerned a great war. The expression for great war in Hebrew is Tzabal Gadol, a great war.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes.
So this is now very, very interesting. This great war is much more than local wars taking place.
It's like
This is
a big scale.
what we are going to see in the book of Daniel. This is not just a physical war with physical army and nations fighting each other, but beyond this, this is a war which involves real spiritual powers.
Okay, yes.
Even we can say God's angels and evil angels, as they are struggling over the minds and hearts of people. So this is all comprehensive war, a great cosmic conflict, if you will.
Sure.
So Daniel says the understanding of the message came to him in a vision.
Mm-hmm.
So historically speaking, Daniel is still very important official in king's court, and he is still being called Belteshazzar. Remember that we are in the time of Medo-Persia.
Yes.
And this is just before the return of Jews to their homeland.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting that Daniel will not be going back to Jerusalem. By this time, he is 90 years old.
Okay.
It's just basically too late for him to come.
He's pretty aged.
It won't be long before Daniel will pass away. But let's look at it. So it says at that time that Daniel mourned for 3 weeks of deaths. So Daniel is doing pretty much the same thing what we saw in Daniel 9, and that's that he was fasting. In chapter 9, we find him putting a sackcloth and ashes and praying to God. God, please, as I'm reading the book of Jeremiah, it tells me that we should be back home in Jerusalem. And we covered that. Mm-hmm, and he said, so this is happening now 2 years after, and he's doing very similar thing. He's fasting and he's praying. And it's interesting that it doesn't say for 3 weeks he was kind of praying, mourning and fasting, but that it says 3 weeks of days.
Right. Yes.
Which is very unusual way of saying it. Daniel could have said, I mourned for 3 weeks, and we will perfectly understand it. Even interestingly, in chapter 9, we find about 70 weeks, and it doesn't say of days.
Yeah.
But here it says 3 weeks of days. And the reason for it, it wants to distinguish between prophetic weeks,
right,
which is 70 weeks, where 1 day is for 1 year, and literal weeks or literal days. And here it says 3 weeks of days. That's an interesting point. So in Daniel 9, he was desperate. In Daniel 10, he was desperate because now the fulfillment of the prophecy needs to take place. That's why he's praying again. He prayed in chapter 9. We find him praying, and he's humbling himself before God. And he's doing the same thing in chapter 10. Gabriel comes at the end of chapter 9, at the end of Daniel's prayer, at the time of daily sacrifice. And here, again, Gabriel comes.
It's like a repetition.
There is parallelism between the two chapters.
Yeah.
He's fasting. We find that the fasting in the Old Testament in a couple of places, and this is one of them, when God says to Moses, and this was especially done around the time of judgment or Yom Kippur, which would take place once a year in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, have them wash their clothes and be ready by the third day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this one is not to do with the judgment. This one is to do with the giving of the covenant,
okay,
or 10 Commandments. Another one here is the book of Esther, when Esther prays and fasts. So this is, and both Daniel and Esther were fasting in the time of Passover.
Right, okay.
And at this time, he receives the vision. So this is the context within which Daniel receives this vision about this Tzaval Gadol, a great war that was to take place.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting to compare Daniel 10 and Joshua,
okay,
because they also talk about war, but they talk about kind of the same person as the main actor of their vision.
Okay.
So Daniel saw somebody who looked like a man. I looked up, and there before me was a man.
Mm-hmm.
And Joshua also saw somebody who stood before him. We find it in chapter 5. As somebody who looked like a man.
Okay, so there's a lot of parallelisms. Yeah.
In Daniel, he's a commander of the army of the Lord. So look, he's a man, and he is a commander of the army of God.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? Imagine that man is the commander of the army of the Lord, which is interesting. And also in Joshua, we find that he is the commander of the army.
Sure.
So it's kind of the same person. So the main actor, who is like a man, who looks like a man, and he's the commander of the army, this is the main actor.
Okay.
So we find him in Daniel 1 and in verse 1 and also in verse 13. He's also called the prince.
Right.
And Gabriel calls him also your prince.
Yes.
Is your prince. Okay?
Yes.
So this is 600 years before Jesus comes. Because Jesus is our prince.
Absolutely.
He's the commander. But he's not all our commander. He's also the commander of the army of God. This is really important to see. So he is the commander of the army. But not only that, on top of that, he's a priest. On top of that, he's a high priest. Look, in Daniel 5 and 6, he's dressed in linen.
Yes.
He has a belt of fine gold on him. And a good student of the Bible would know that in the book of Revelation, we find the same kind of a character, Jesus himself. In Daniel 10, 5 and 6, we find that he has a body like a topaz, face like lightning, eyes like flaming torches, arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze. Exactly the same description. And we know that this one is Jesus.
Right.
Because this is, in the book of Revelation, we know that this is Jesus. So when we compare Revelation 1 and Revelation 10, then we are totally and 100% sure that this is one and the same person and none other but Jesus.
Wow.
Daniel still does not know, but for us, we know.
Yeah.
Okay? He's dressed in a long robe in the Revelation 1, golden sash around his chest, eyes like blazing fire, feet like bronze glowing, voice like the sound of rushing waters. He's a man. He's firstborn from the dead. He's first and the last in the book of Revelation. He's our high priest. So that's him.
Right.
But we find also that the reaction of Daniel to the vision of this man who is a high priest, who is a commander of the army, who looks like a man, he must have looked majestic. He looks
Sure.
majestic in the book of Revelation. He looks majestic here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reaction of Daniel, reaction of Ezekiel, because also Ezekiel saw the same person,
Mm-hmm.
and the reaction of John in the book of Revelation is exactly the same.
Right.
Look what is the reaction of Daniel. I fell into deep sleep with my face to the ground. He simply could not stand the glory of this being.
Mm.
When I saw it, Ezekiel said, I fell face down. John says, when I saw him, I fell at his feet as though I was dead.
Mm.
This is incredible vision of beauty and glory that a normal human eye and a human being can hardly stand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as we said, this is the Son of Man
Mm-hmm.
that we encountered in Daniel 7.
Mm-hmm.
He is the high priest in Daniel 8.
Yeah.
He's the glorious fiery being, the commander of the army, and the high priest of Daniel 10. One and the same person.
Right. No.
So he sees him,
Yes.
and he falls with his face on the ground.
Yes.
Gabriel sees what's going on with Daniel, and he tells him, hey, Daniel, don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Since the first day, and then Gabriel starts to talk to Daniel. He says, since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them.
Mm.
So he's kind of frightened by this vision of this Son of Man and a high priest.
Yeah.
Gabriel comes to see him and he says, Daniel, don't be afraid.
Mm.
You started praying 3 weeks ago. Now let me tell you, the first day you prayed, I heard your prayer.
That's amazing.
And I've come as a response to them.
Mm.
So as soon as Daniel starts praying his prayer, he was heard by God. That's really important.
Mm.
This is important for us. As soon as we start praying, our God hears our prayers.
Absolutely.
Very, very important. But this is a question. Is there a need to fast or to pray for 3 weeks? If God hears our prayers straight away, why go on?
Sure.
It's interesting that the content of the prayer was not recorded. We don't find it.
Mm-hmm.
So God hears a prayer before it is even formulated.
Okay. He knows it from the beginning to the end.
According to Psalm 139.
Mm.
So this tells us that God's response does not depend on quantity or quality of our prayers.
Mm.
So during these 3 weeks of fasting and prayer, Gabriel was involved in a battle against the prince of Persia. That's what Gabriel tells him. It says, yes, I've heard your prayer, and God has heard your prayer the very first time you prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been doing that for these 3 weeks. I want to tell you now that I, Gabriel, was involved in a battle against the king of Persia. This is strange. How can an angel be in a battle against a
mortal? A man.
A mortal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mortal does not stand a chance.
Not at all.
So this is where this whole idea of Tzabal Gadol, or a great war, gets into focus.
Oh, right.
So we are seeing behind the visible.
So there was like a cosmic war.
Exactly, cosmic battle, cosmic war. We see Gabriel with his angels,
right.
And we see devil and his angels fighting, and they are fighting in the context of this Persian king who needs to give an edict for Israel to go back.
To let them go, yeah. Okay.
Over the mind of this king.
Right.
This is real battle. So this tells us that the greatest battle taking place today is the battle over human heart and mind.
It makes sense.
That's really important. So there's a connection between spiritual battle of Daniel during 3 weeks of fasting and prayer and reality surrounding them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes, yes.
And so look what's happening in this whole thing. So Daniel hears words and falls on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Angel touches his hand
Right.
and knees.
Yeah, in verse 10 and 11, yes.
And in verse 12, angel comforts him, tells him, don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells him about this struggle with the prince of Persia, that he's fighting together with Michael, who is our prince, who is this majestic being.
Yes.
That Daniel sees.
The one in the vision he saw, yes.
So this is being repeated twice in chapter 10.
Okay.
So as we said, Michael. So who is this character, Michael? So it's actually the same one. So that's really the high priest. This is the Son of Man. This is our priest. This is the commander of the army. But here also we find him as Michael.
Right.
The main prince.
Mm.
He led Moses as a prince warrior against Pharaoh. He led Joshua in the battle of Jericho. He led Israel to the promised land. And the name Michael means the one who is like God.
Mm. Mm.
Whenever Hebrew name finishes with L, that El refers to God.
Right.
Okay. So Michael is the one who is the commander of the army.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael is the one who is leading in this battle together with Gabriel.
Right.
And this battle is over this Persian king, over his mind and heart, so that Jews would go back to Jerusalem. In the book of Exodus, we have this scene of a war cry of victory that we find in Exodus 15. The enemy boasted, I will pursue, I will overtake them, I will divide their spoils, I will divide the spoils, I will gorge myself on them, I will draw my sword in my hand, I will destroy them. But you blew with your breath, and the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who among the gods is like you, Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonder? So Moses behind this also sees the army of God, led by Michael, in this great Saval Gadol, in this great war.
Right.
Here in Daniel, we know that the commander of the army is Michael, Son of Man. We know him as Son of Man, commander of the army, etc.
Mm-hmm.
In Psalm, we find Psalm is the same. My whole being will exclaim, who is like you, Lord? You rescue the poor from those too strong for them, the poor and needy from those who rob them. So what we find here is that our prayers matter. And God comes to us when we ask him.
Absolutely.
And the angels of God are around us. And they are there to fight our battles. So we are not on our own. God is with us and he is on our side. But the battle is very real, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it is amazing.
So that's really what is going on. So this is kind of a background to this whole story that will develop then after that in chapter 11 and in chapter 12. So it gives us a context about great cosmic war that started a long time ago and that will finish at the time of the end.
Right.
So chapter 11 is going to continue developing this Saval Gadol, great controversy that will finish in our time. We are really privileged to know what is going on behind the curtain. So what we know is happening behind the curtains is that Jesus, the commander of the army of God, fights for his people and gives us the outcomes we desire to have.
Absolutely.
And the best outcomes we can have. The encouragement is really prayer.
That's where we started with Daniel.
That is the key. The angel tells him, as soon as you started praying, your God heard your prayer. And our Prince, Jesus, is on our side. And heavenly angels are on our side. So in this great controversy, in this great war, we are not alone. And look, this is really poignant message, especially in the time that we live in. I don't need to tell you that this is crazy time we live in.
Yeah.
We have no idea how this is going to end. The whole world is literally shutting down before our eyes, literally shutting down.
Yeah.
Schools are not working. Sport arenas are closed. People are in lockdown, and we are told that this may last for a long period of time, for months and months.
Absolutely.
And we have no idea.
Yeah.
So behind this, we need to know there is this great Sabal Gadol. There is more to it than meets the eye. And we need to understand this. And we need to be encouraged that our God is with us in this great Sabal Gadol.
So what I'm hearing is
prayer,
what I'm hearing is that as the same experience that Daniel had can be ours in our time. We can get the same hope. We have the privilege, like you mentioned, to see behind the curtain, understand many more things that Daniel understood back then, and remember that we can, with that experience, remember that ultimately we have the great Prince of heaven. We have God himself fighting on our behalf. There is a great war, yet he is controlling this. At the same time, he is fighting on our behalf, on whoever believes in him, really.
And remember the Bible text, which is probably appropriate here. We can boldly come before the throne of grace.
Yeah.
And our God can fight our battles.
Amen.
But our God is inviting us. He says, your prayers are aiding me, are helping me. You are calling me to come and stand on your side. On your side. So we are crucial players in this. It's not as we are non-players. We are players. And we are players also on behalf of other people, not only just for our own sake, but we are players and we can intercede on behalf of other people. But that's another thing. So I think this is very, very encouraging for us, especially at this time. It is real Tzabal Gadol. It is real battle, and behind what is going on in the world now.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that everybody who listens can have that strength, that the faith may be reinvigorated, that as we spend more time in prayer, God will do his part. Let us not forget that this beautiful chapter that Zeny, you just described for us, tells us that from the very first moment that Daniel prayed, there was already an answer being sent. But there is the war behind that. Sometimes things appear to be on hold.
Excellent point. That is excellent point.
Yeah.
So God answers, and we can be assured of victory. So victory is already assured. You cannot be defeated. That's the fact. That's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Excellent. I look forward to next week's when we talk about Daniel chapter 11 and unpack some of these ideas in this amazing war that is behind the scenes, of things that happen, but also things that may be coming. Well, thank you so much, Zeny and family. There you have it. We look forward to discussing also chapter 11, and I hope that you can join us as well as we unpack those character building ideas. Don't forget that we're going to put a link at the bottom about these sessions, seminars, live presentations that Zeny is going to be delivering in his church, because if you do not have the opportunity to have that in your church or in your community and you're in a shutdown, as we know many places around the world, in yours might be one of those you can still join somewhere. And Zeny is based here in Brisbane in Australia, and he will be sharing a lot of inspiring and timely messages through this Zoom and through these technologies that we can utilize today to keep the faith and to keep the interactions going. So thank you so much. Zeny and I today have chosen to love God because there is no other way to go. There is no other place to go. And we have chosen to live a prayerful life, and we encourage you to do that. The question is, are you ready to do that? Do you want to do that? And I hope that you do.
Remember to subscribe to this podcast, like it, share it, hashtag it, comment, and find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Tumblr as Adventist Reflections. God bless you.